Warhammer 40,000 is very, very cool. The wonderful world of Warhammer has captivated hundreds of thousands of players. That being said, the biggest issue Warhammer faces today is accessibility. Games Workshop does a pretty terrible job of getting new players invested into the game. Speaking of investments, the time and money needed to play Warhammer 100% legitimately, you will need to spend at least hundreds of dollars. In order to start playing Match Play, the most popular game mode, you need a core rulebook, your army's codex, a printed out data slate, which are essentially patch notes, the Munitorium field manuals, which are points updates, whatever chapter approved book is out currently, and then you will need a full army of models, not including glue, clippers, paint, or even terrain. But there's a way to avoid or at least circumvent a lot of these costs. Let me introduce you to Warhammer. Time to figure out how to play 40k for the cheapest way possible. Alright, time for the models and rules. Like I said earlier, you need a metric ton of money to properly play 40k. But thankfully, there's a bunch of ways you can cut costs when you're starting out for 40k, and I personally follow a lot of these tips 3 years into my plastic crack addiction. If you like what you see in this video, please remember to like and subscribe. First up, the reason we all play the game. You want some cool models, don't you? As we all know, GW can pump out some insanely priced model packs. One of my favorite examples of this are the Tyranid Warriors. We only have 3 of these guys, and typically in a Tyranid army, you'd want 9 or so, sometimes more, sometimes less. And but let's say if you go with 9, that maths out to about $180 just for 9 of these old-ass models. Now, there's plenty of examples of this throughout the GW store, but if you're looking at buying a full-scale 2,000-point army to bring to tournaments, you will basically need to drop a mortgage payment for that. I bring you 3 different ways that you can get these models for much cheaper than the sometimes absurd MSRP of these model kits. First up is my personal favorite, Troll Trader. Troll Trader is a website based in Europe that deals in secondhand miniatures and is a reseller for many people. I've ordered from these guys a bunch, and every single time it's been a breeze. By going onto this website, you can find the minis you want for typically around half the price. If you have room temperature IQ like me, you probably hate building these dudes, and they're usually pre-built. You can usually find these models built and primed by their original owner on Troll Trader. I highly recommend. Next up is eBay. There's a very good chance that you've used eBay before, so I won't go too into it, but you can definitely find lots and a lot of other pre-owned models. Sometimes you can even find new in-box models for a slight price cut. Lastly, check out your friendly local game store. That's right, this step is tricky because you actually need to interact with other people, but I promise you, you will not regret it. You can get into these local stores and you can find pre-owned models, but sometimes they even offer a discount on new in-box models as well. If your friends couldn't care less about your 2-inch tall army men, your friendly local game store is usually a fantastic way to meet and play with other people. You can do this by searching for a direct Games Workshop store, or you can Google places that sell Warhammer near me, and there's bound to be a few. I live in Massachusetts, and my favorite place to go by far is a wonderful place called the Battle Standard in East Windsor, Connecticut. Go there or any other hobby stores near you, and just go out and meet some people, have some fun. So in order to play the game, you need to know the rules. That's pretty standard, right? Well, there's a myriad of ways to find out about an army you want to play and how to play. First up is 1D4chan, and no, you won't find degenerate forums on this site. It's a community-run site that gives you breakdowns of armies, characters, and some light how-to-play segments in regards to strategies and whatnot. Next up is the legally gray alternative that gives you direct word-for-word copies of the core rules, codices, and all the FAQ, erratas, and more. We have Wahapedia for that. Google it. Moving on. One thing that you need for every Warhammer game is an army list. You can use Battlescribe, and it's an incredible and free list building app that's on your phone's app store and is also downloadable on your laptops and desktops. Battlescribe also has a lot of word-for-word datasheets for minis present in the app. I use it pretty much anytime I play 40k. So now that you've inevitably read through the thousands and thousands of pages of lores and rules, let's move on to the extra little things that you will need to really make your army stand out. Next up is the hobby side of the hobby. If you're building any new on-sprue models, you'll need some clippers to cut the pieces off the sprue and some glue to put them together. For clippers, I'd recommend getting some standard hobby clippers. You can get these at any local hobby shop and probably some hardware stores as well. What you don't need to do is pay $50 for the Games Workshop one. I have a couple of clippers I got for between $5 and $10 each. Now, as far as the glue is concerned, I always recommend Tamiya plastic cement. That stuff's my go-to for any hobbyist. It sticks pieces of models together so quickly. Just be wary. Try to have a fan or a well-ventilated room because you will get high off the paint if you're not careful. Now, if you're building a resin model like a Forge World model or even a 3D print, you're better off using Gorilla Glue Instant Adhesive Micro Precise. This stuff doesn't dry as quickly as Tamiya, but it's guaranteed to work for any materials that you may use besides the standard GW plastic. Now, we always see these epic battles waged in a grimdark setting, whether it's in battle reports, the trailers, or even at your standard 40k tournaments. Warhammer terrain can also be absurdly expensive, so I'm happy to report that if you use the terrain in your mind mentality, you can make some terrain with stuff that you just have laying around the house. Very often I'll see people who just use empty Coke cans, cardboard boxes, and other random stuff to make grimdark terrain. Honestly, you may not be as immersed, but myself and pretty much every other new wargamer starts by doing this. Okay, so the paint is one thing that I recommend you don't want to skimp out on. That being said, you actually don't need to paint your models, even if I think you should. The feeling of looking at a fully painted board is just a really cool feeling, and it gets you immersed super quickly in the game. Now, if you're going to start painting your models, I will say that Citadel is pricey, but probably your best option, personally. But have no fear, you can get great results with just about any brand. I'm just a GW shill that generally prefers Citadel paints because of their coverage and good color consistency when I'm going from pot to model. Other great options that can get you started are anything from Army Painter or Vallejo. You can get pretty much any color combination you want from any of these three competitors. Each tiny paint pot goes anywhere from $3 to $15 depending on what you're getting and who you're getting it from. But I personally prefer painting over anything else, so for me, it's worth it. As far as actual paintbrushes are concerned, I say that you can head to either your local game store or even a nearby Michael's or something like that. I'm telling you right now, learn to paint before spending any kind of money on brushes. Buying the fancy brushes won't net you the best looking models, it's your skill that defines that. I may not be the best painter in the world, but I think I get some decent results with multi-packs of brushes I get off of Amazon for like 15 or 20 bucks. Once you're seasoned, I say pick up some good, better brushes, but for now, you are good. Alright, where to start? As I've already mentioned a few times in this video, your friendly local game store is an excellent place to go if you want to meet new people, looking for advice where to start, or just to shop. Most game store employees have a wealth of knowledge and are more than happy to indoctrinate new people into the hobby. Next up, if you want to do all of this for basically free, you can check out Tabletop Simulator. Me and my friends have played quite a few games here, and it's basically what it sounds like. You could play 40k from your computer, and for completely free minus the actual cost to get Tabletop Simulator and a halfway decent PC. Now, I'm certainly not the most qualified person to tell you how to do this, so I'll link a video in the description of this video that shows you how to set that up. So, if you really think this full army game is too much to get started with, which I completely understand, my personal favorite aspect of 40k is Kill Team. This is a small skirmish game that's much cheaper to play and generally has easier to follow rules. Basically, you pick up one box of basic dudes depending on your army, and you're good to go. That's all you'll need. If you and a friend are interested in getting into the hobby, I'd currently recommend buying the Kill Team starter set for $100. This includes 2 kill teams, basic rules, and everything you need to play the game. This is by far the easiest and most accessible way to start playing 40k. I personally have around half dozen kill teams, and I always have a blast trying these new kill teams out on the battlefield. There's plenty of fantastic 40k YouTubers, and I promise you, there's going to be a lot of good ones that I miss or just don't have time to cover in here. So these are some of the people that I use for various 40k resources that helped me get more into the hobby and still help me stay involved in the community and the game to this day. Alright, so the first section of this will be the battle report channels. My absolute favorite battle report channel is Play on Tabletop. They have a condensed battle report system that kind of takes more of like a sports production angle to make battle reports that make it just an addicting channel to watch. They primarily do 40k content, whether that's 9th edition or Kill Team, but they do some other games as well. Next up, we have Dice Check. These guys are back from a hiatus, and the fun they have is just infectious. This channel was created by well-known YouTuber Magikarp Use Fly and Bricky, as well as some other dudes that I think are just from their local area. It was great watching a lot of them start from the beginning of the hobby to being one of the best battle report channels on YouTube. So, there's a ton of great painting channels, but here's some that I recommend. I'm just going to rapid fire these guys. We have Squidmar, Miniac, Midwinter Minis, Eons of Battle, and Duncan Rhodes Painting Academy. All of these guys are good at different aspects of what they do, and it's just awesome, because honestly, watching these channels has given me so many cool ideas for how I actually want to paint my minis. Now, I'm not usually too big on lore channels, but there's a couple that I actually really like. Arbiter Ian is a channel I found last year, and he's consistently bringing out great content about various parts of the 40k story all the time. Seriously, it is some top shelf stuff. Luton09 is one of, if not the biggest lore channel on YouTube, for good reason. If you wanted the undisputed king of 40k lore on YouTube, check out Luton. He has such a command of the topic, and it's super impressive how well he can break down all aspects of the lore. Now lastly is kind of an uncategorized channel called Tabletop Minions. Uncle Adam is the host, and he's like this wise sage that can guide you through your wargaming experience. His channel has videos that cover anything from onboarding new players to just general life advice. Also, he makes tabletop games of his own, and I've played it once, and it's pretty good. So, definitely one of my favorite channels, and he's just an awesome creator. Alrighty, so hopefully this should give you guys some tools to get started with 40k. I know that I had a bitch of a time figuring out what tools I should buy and how to actually start, so if you have any other introductory questions, feel free to comment and I'll do my best to help. As per usual, I've been Jared, you've been wonderful, see you next time.